The pup shouldn't have been alive. She found him buried in snow, one golden eye barely open. She pulled him out. He didn't move, dead weight in her arms. Then he pressed one tiny paw against her wrist, and she felt it. The pack bond. Royal. Impossible. This wasn't a pup. This was the Alpha King everyone thought was dead. She carried him home through the blizzard, 2 miles, her arms burning. When she stumbled through her door, the hearth lit itself. No spark, no wood, just flames, because the king just crossed her threshold, and someone on the council is about to realize he's still alive. If you're getting pulled into this story the way I am, do me a favor and subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories, because what happens next is going to rewrite everything you think you know about fate.
Outside the great hall, snow continued to fall. The pack had already begun preparing. In the center of the main courtyard, workers constructed a ceremonial platform. Wood beams. White cloth. Lanterns that would burn all night. There would be no body to bury. Just an empty space where a king used to be. Wolves moved through the stronghold wearing charcoal gray and deep blue. Morning colors. The children were kept inside. The elderly gathered in small groups, whispering prayers to the moon goddess. In the Omega Quarter, far from the main stronghold, Melody folded her last clean shirt and placed it in her worn leather bag. She was small. Dark-skinned with hair she kept braided close to her scalp because it was easier that way. Her hands were rough from years of cleaning, scrubbing, hauling water no one else wanted to touch. Barren Omegas didn't get easy jobs. They got the jobs that didn't matter. And if they died doing them, well, that didn't matter either. Melody. The head Omega, a sharp-faced woman named Greta, stood in the doorway. The elders need frost lavender and winter mint for the funeral rites. The storerooms are empty. Melody looked up. The storm is dying down, Greta cut her off. You'll have 2 hours of lighter snow. That's enough time to reach the frost line and return. 2 hours isn't. Then you'd better move quickly. Melody stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll leave now. Greta left without another word. Melody pulled on her cloak. It was thin. Patched in 3 places. Not meant for a storm like this. But she'd learned a long time ago that arguing didn't change anything. She stepped outside. The cold hit her immediately. It felt like knives against her face. The snow had slowed, but it was still falling. Thick. Wet. The kind that soaks through fabric in minutes. Melody pulled her cloak tighter and started walking. The frost line was 2 miles from the Omega Quarter. Through the forest. Past the territory markers. Into the part of the valley where even wolves didn't go during storms. Her boots sank into snow up to her knees with every step. After 30 minutes, her fingers went numb. After an hour, she couldn't feel her feet. But she kept walking. Because that's what Barren Omegas did. They followed orders. They didn't complain. They didn't expect anyone to care if they came back or not. Melody reached the frost line just as the wind picked up again. The herbs grew in clusters near the base of the cliffs. Purple stems. White flowers that only bloomed in freezing temperatures. She knelt down and started gathering them with shaking hands. That's when she heard it. A sound. Faint. Almost lost under the wind. A whimper. Melody froze. Nothing should be alive out here. Not in this cold. Not in this storm. She turned her head slowly. The sound came again. Weaker this time. Melody stood up. Her legs screamed in protest, but she moved toward the sound. 20 feet away, half buried in snow, something moved. She stumbled forward and dropped to her knees. It was a wolf pup. I need to know something. If you were Melody, would you risk your life for something you found in the snow? Because I don't know if I'd be that brave. Let me know in the comments. Silver gray fur. Barely breathing. One leg bent at an angle that made Melody's stomach turn. Blood crusted around its mouth and paws. Ice had formed on its lashes. It was dying. Melody reached out with numb fingers and touched its side. The pup's eye opened. Just one. Gold. Bright even in the storm. And Melody felt something she'd never felt before. The pack bond. Not faint. Not distant. Royal. Her breath caught. Impossible. The Alpha King was a war beast. Massive. This pup fit in her hands. But the bond didn't lie. Oh no, Melody whispered. No, no, no. The pup whimpered again and tried to move closer to her. Melody looked around. The storm was getting worse. The wind howled. Snow fell so thick she could barely see 5 feet ahead. If she left to get help, the pup would be dead before she made it back. If she tried to carry him, she might not survive the walk. She stared at the pup for one more second. Then she pulled off her cloak and wrapped it around him. Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories and drop a comment telling me what time you're watching this. Melody's hands were shaking so badly she could barely tie the cloak around the pup. He was heavier than he looked. Solid muscle beneath the matted fur. But small. Too small for what the pack bond was telling her. She pressed her palm against his side. His heartbeat was faint. Irregular. Like it kept forgetting to keep going. The pup's one open eye tracked her movement. Gold. Bright. Aware in a way that made her stomach twist. You can't be him, Melody whispered. You can't be. But the bond hummed in her chest. Royal. Unmistakable. Alpha King Nikolai Ravenstone was supposed to be a war beast. 7 feet tall in human form. Over 30 stone when shifted. A wolf so massive that the ground shook when he ran. This pup fit in her arms. Melody looked at his leg. It was bent wrong. Bone showing through torn skin. Blood had frozen into the fur around the wound, turning it black and stiff. His breathing was shallow. Rasping. She had maybe 30 minutes before he stopped breathing entirely. The pup made a sound. Not a whimper. Something smaller. Weaker. And for just a second, Melody felt something else through the bond. Fear. Not the fear of dying. The fear of being left behind again. Her breath hitched. She didn't understand how, but she knew. This wasn't just injury and cold. Something had gone wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Okay, Melody said, more to herself than to him. Okay. I've got you. The pup's eye closed slowly, like he didn't believe her but was too tired to argue. Inside the pup's fractured mind, Nikolai Ravenstone couldn't hold on to thoughts for more than a few seconds. Pain. Cold. The scent of blood. He remembered falling. Claws that shouldn't have touched him. Magic that tasted like poison. He remembered shifting. Not by choice. His body had done it to survive. Forced itself into the smallest form it could manage. A form that could endure cold but couldn't fight back. Couldn't heal. Couldn't call for help. He remembered crawling. Trying to reach the stronghold. Failing. And then nothing but white death. Until now. Warmth. Hands that weren't trying to hurt him. A voice that didn't sound like it wanted him dead. He tried to lift his head. His body wouldn't respond. The hands wrapped something around him. Fabric. Thin but better than nothing. Don't leave. He couldn't say it. Couldn't send it through the bond. His magic was shattered into pieces too small to use. But he felt her hesitate. And the fear came back. Everyone left eventually. Melody stared at the pup for 3 full seconds. She could leave him here. Go back to the stronghold. Tell the council what she found. Let them send warriors with supplies and knowledge and actual ability to save him. But the storm was getting worse. The wind screamed. Snow fell so thick she couldn't see the cliffs anymore. By the time she made it back and led them here, he'd be frozen solid. She looked down at him again. The pup was staring at her. That one golden eye tracking every movement like he knew exactly what she was thinking. And then he did something that made her decision for her. He lifted one tiny paw and pressed it against her wrist. Barely any pressure. Just a touch. Please. Melody closed her eyes. I'm an idiot. She gathered the pup into her arms and stood up. Her legs almost buckled. He was heavier than he should be. Dense. Solid. Her muscles screamed in protest. But she adjusted her grip and started walking. The storm hit her immediately. Wind so strong it nearly knocked her sideways. Snow that stung her face like needles. Melody bent forward and kept moving. One step. Then another. Her cabin was 2 miles away. Through the forest. Past the Omega Quarter. Into the section of territory where no one went because there was nothing worth protecting. Her boots sank into snow up to her thighs. After 10 minutes, she couldn't feel her hands. After 20, her vision started going blurry at the edges. The pup whimpered against her chest. I know, Melody gasped. I know it hurts. Just hold on. She stumbled over something buried in the snow. Fell to one knee. Pain shot up her leg. The pup made that small, broken sound again. Melody forced herself back up. Behind her, the wind erased her footprints as fast as she made them. She didn't know how long she walked. Time stopped meaning anything. There was only cold. Pain. The weight in her arms. The pup's heart beat against her chest, faint but still there. Still fighting. When she finally saw the outline of her cabin through the snow, Melody almost cried. It wasn't much. One room. Crooked chimney. Walls that let in drafts no matter how much she patched them. But it had a door. And a hearth. And it was shelter. Melody staggered up the 3 steps to her door. Her fingers were so numb she couldn't grip the handle properly. She had to use her elbow to push it open. The door swung inward. Melody stumbled inside and kicked it shut behind her. The wind stopped. The sound of the storm became muffled. Distant. Melody stood there for a moment, swaying on her feet. Then her knees gave out. She collapsed onto the floor, still holding the pup against her chest. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then Melody felt it. The air in the cabin shifted. Warmed. She lifted her head. The hearth across the room flared to life. No kindling. No spark. Just sudden, impossible flame. Melody stared at it. Then down at the pup in her arms. His breathing had steadied. Just slightly. His shaking had lessened. The pack bond hummed. Melody looked at the closed door. At the storm raging outside. At the tiny, broken wolf in her arms who was somehow still the most feared alpha in 3 territories. What did I just do? She whispered. The pup's eye opened. Gold. Exhausted. But locked onto hers. Alive. Melody's cabin had never been warm before. Not in the 3 years she'd lived there. The walls were too thin. The chimney leaked smoke. The door didn't seal properly against the frame. But now, with the pup wrapped in her only blanket near the hearth, the air felt almost comfortable. She didn't understand it. The fire had lit itself. No wood. No kindling. Just flames that appeared the moment she carried him inside. Melody pushed herself up from the floor. Her legs shook. Her hands were still numb. But the pup was breathing. That was enough. She moved to the hearth and added real wood to the magical flames. They caught immediately. Burned hotter than they should. Okay, Melody said quietly. Okay. Let's see how bad this is. She knelt beside the pup and carefully unwrapped the cloak. The damage was worse than she'd thought. His hind leg was definitely broken. The bone had pierced through skin. Blood matted the fur around the wound. Ice still clung to parts of his coat. Gashes covered his sides. Deep. Like something with claws had tried to tear him apart. Melody's stomach turned. This wasn't an accident. Someone had done this to him. The pup whimpered when she touched the broken leg. I know, Melody whispered. I'm sorry. I have to clean it or it'll get infected. She moved to the small shelf near her bed. Grabbed the bottle of alcohol she kept for emergencies. Clean rags. A needle and thread. Her hands were still shaking when she came back. The pup watched her with that one golden eye. The other was swollen shut. Melody sat down and took a breath. This is going to hurt. She poured alcohol over the wound. The pup yelped. His body jerked. Melody pressed her hand against his side. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And then she did something without thinking. She started humming. An old song. Something her mother used to sing before she died. Melody didn't even remember the words anymore. Just the melody. The pup's breathing slowed. His body stopped shaking. Melody kept humming as she cleaned the wounds. Stitched the deepest gashes. Wrapped the broken leg as best she could with strips of fabric torn from her spare shirt. By the time she finished, the pup had fallen asleep.
I don't know about you, but this is the part that gets me. She's using her own supplies, her own food, her own warmth, for someone the pack has already given up on. Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories, because I need to know if you think she's being selfless or just lonely.
Melody heated the last of her vegetable broth over the fire. It was supposed to last her 3 more days. But the pup needed food more than she did. When it was warm, she soaked a rag in the broth and held it to the pup's mouth. He didn't respond at first. Then his tongue moved. Barely. Licking at the rag. Melody's chest tightened. That's it. Come on. She kept feeding him. A little at a time. Until the bowl was empty and the pup's breathing had evened out completely. Melody sat back against the wall. Her body ached. Her hands burned from the cold. Her stomach was empty. But the pup was stable. For now. She pulled her knees to her chest and closed her eyes. Just for a moment. When Melody woke, it was dark outside. The fire had burned down to embers. The cabin was still warm. Too warm for a dying fire. She looked at the hearth. The flames flickered higher the moment she stirred. Melody stared at them. Then at the pup. He was awake. Watching her. You're doing this, aren't you? She whispered. The pup blinked slowly. Melody shook her head. I don't understand how any of this works. She pushed herself up and added more wood to the fire. Her body protested every movement. When she turned back, the pup had shifted position. He was facing the door now. His ears forward. Alert. What is it? The pup growled. Small. Weak. But definite. Melody froze. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Crunching through snow. Multiple sets. They were coming closer. Back at the Ravenstone stronghold, the council chamber was packed. Elder Theron stood at the head of the table. His face was gray with exhaustion. The funeral rites are complete, he said. We need to move forward with succession. Who? Someone demanded. Darius has volunteered to serve as temporary alpha until. Temporary, another council member snapped. The king is dead. There's nothing temporary about it. Darius stood up. Young. Ambitious. His eyes were calm. Too calm. I'll stabilize the pack, he said. That's all that matters right now. Theron nodded slowly. The vote will be held tomorrow at dawn. No one noticed the faint smile on Darius's face. Outside the stronghold, border packs were already moving. The Northridge wolves crossed into Ravenstone territory at sunset. No warning. No declaration. They were testing. Seeing if the leaderless pack would fight back. 3 Ravenstone warriors confronted them. The fight was brief. Brutal. The Northridge wolves retreated. But the message was clear. Without an alpha king, the Ravenstone pack was vulnerable. In the barracks, a group of scouts gathered around a map. There, one of them said, pointing to a section of the territory marked as empty. That's where the magic signature is coming from. That's past the Omega Quarter. There's nothing out there. There's something now. The lead scout, a wolf named Garrett, frowned. Royal magic? Faint. But definitely royal. Garrett looked at the other scouts. Get a team together. We leave in 10 minutes. Melody pressed herself against the wall. The footsteps stopped right outside her door. The pup growled again. Louder this time. He tried to stand. His broken leg buckled. But he dragged himself forward anyway. Positioning himself between Melody and the door. Protecting her. Even though he could barely move. Melody's breath caught. Don't, she whispered. You'll hurt yourself worse. The pup didn't move. Someone knocked on the door. 3 sharp raps. Open up, a male voice called. We're pack scouts. We're tracking a magical signature. Melody didn't respond. Another knock. Harder this time. We can smell you in there. Open the door or we break it down. Melody looked at the pup. At his broken body. At the way he was still trying to stand despite the pain. She moved to the door. Her hand hovered over the handle. Last chance, the voice said. Melody took a breath. And opened the door. 5 wolves stood on Melody's doorstep. All warriors. All armed. All staring at her like they couldn't decide if she was suspicious or just pathetic. The lead scout, a man with a scar across his jaw, stepped forward. We're tracking a magical signature. Royal magic. Coming from this cabin. Melody didn't move from the doorway. There's nothing here. We'll be the judge of that. He pushed past her before she could stop him. The other scouts followed. Melody's heart slammed against her ribs. She turned and saw them fan out across her tiny cabin. Looking. Searching. One of them stopped at the hearth. Well, well. He crouched down. What do we have here? The pup was still on the floor. Wrapped in the blanket. His one good eye tracking every movement. The scout reached out. Melody moved without thinking. She stepped between him and the pup. Arms spread. Blocking his path. Don't touch him. The scout looked up at her. Then laughed. Are you serious right now? The other warriors joined in. Low chuckles that made Melody's face burn. The Barren Omega has a pet, one of them said. Cute, another added. Does it have a name? The lead scout stood up. His expression wasn't amused anymore. Step aside. No. That wasn't a request. He's hurt, Melody said. Her voice shook but she didn't move. If you scare him, he'll die. More laughter. It's a pup, the scarred scout said. Not the Alpha King. Move. I said no. The scout's jaw tightened. He gestured to 2 of his men. Remove her. They moved forward. Melody planted her feet. Please. Just leave him alone. He's not what you're looking for. How would you know what we're looking for? The scout grabbed her arm. And the pup growled. It was a small sound. Weak. Barely audible over the crackling fire. But every wolf in the room froze. Because that growl carried weight. Authority that made the air feel heavier. Made breathing harder. The scout's hand dropped from Melody's arm. What the? The pup tried to stand. His broken leg wouldn't support him. But he kept trying. Dragging himself forward. Positioning himself between Melody and the warriors. Protecting her. Golden light flickered around his small body. Faint. Unstable. But unmistakable. The lead scout took a step back. That's not possible. Tell me I'm seeing things, one of the other warriors whispered. The light pulsed brighter. And every wolf in the cabin felt it. The pack bond. Royal. Absolute. Undeniable. The lead scout's knees buckled. He hit the floor hard. The others followed. One by one. Dropping to their knees like their bodies had stopped taking orders from their brains. Melody stared at them. Then at the pup. He was still growling. That tiny, broken sound that somehow made fully grown warriors submit. Alpha, the scarred scout choked out. Alpha King Nikolai. Okay, I need a reality check. The pack spent 3 days mourning their dead king. And he's been in a Barren Omega's cabin the whole time. Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories because this story is about to get so much messier. The cabin door burst open again. An older woman rushed inside. Gray hair. Sharp eyes. She carried a leather bag that smelled like herbs and medicine. The pack healer. Where is he? She demanded. Then she saw the pup. Oh gods. She dropped to her knees beside him. Her hands moved quickly. Checking his wounds. His breathing. His leg. How long has he been like this? Since last night, Melody said quietly. The healer's head snapped up. You found him last night and didn't report it? The storm would have killed him before I made it back. So you brought him here. Alone. Through a blizzard. The healer stared at her. You should be dead. I know. The healer turned back to the pup. These wounds are at least 4 days old. The bone should be infected by now. The blood loss alone should have killed him. She paused. But he's stable. How? Melody didn't answer. The healer's eyes narrowed. She leaned closer to Melody. Inhaled. Her expression changed. You're sent, the healer whispered. It's different. What? You're not, the healer stood up abruptly. She grabbed Melody's wrist. Pulled her toward the door. Into the cold air outside. The scout stayed inside with the pup. Breathe, the healer ordered. I am breathing. Deeper. Melody took a deep breath. The cold air burned her lungs. The healer circled her slowly. I don't believe it. What are you talking about? You were classified as Barren, weren't you? Melody's jaw tightened. Yes. They were wrong. The healer stopped in front of her. You're not Barren. You're an anchor. A what? An anchoring omega. A type we thought was extinct. The healer's hands were shaking. Your body doesn't produce children. It stabilizes alphas. Especially broken ones. Melody stared at her. That's not. How else do you explain it? The Alpha King should be dead. But his wounds are healing. His magic is stabilizing. Because of you. I just cleaned his wounds. Fed him broth. That's. Normal Omegas can't do what you did. You walked 2 miles through a blizzard carrying a weight that should have killed you. You brought him here and his magic responded. The hearth lit itself. His pain eases when you're near. His breathing steadies with your voice. The healer stepped closer. You weren't useless. You were hidden. Melody's throat tightened. Hidden. All those years. All that silence. Being told she didn't matter. Being given the jobs no one else wanted. Being invisible. Because she was rare. Valuable. And someone didn't want her found. Who classified me as Barren? Melody asked. The healer's face went pale. Council member Darius. Inside the stronghold, Darius stood in the council chamber. The vote for temporary alpha had been postponed. Again. Because the scouts had found something. Garrett, the lead scout, entered the chamber. His face was grim. Report, Elder Theron demanded. The Alpha King is alive. The room erupted. Questions. Shouts. Disbelief. Where? Theron's voice cut through the chaos. The Omega Quarter. A cabin belonging to Garrett hesitated. The Barren Omega. Melody. More chaos. A Barren Omega saved the Alpha King? That's impossible. How did she even find him? Darius remained silent. His face carefully neutral. But his hands clenched into fists beneath the table. We need to bring him back immediately, Theron said. Send a full escort. The best healers. Move now. Garrett nodded and left. Darius stood up. I'll go with them. To ensure his safety. Theron frowned. That won't be necessary. With respect, Elder, the Alpha King has been missing for days. We don't know what happened to him. Or who's responsible. Darius's voice was calm. Reasonable. I want to make sure he's protected. Theron hesitated. Then nodded. Fine. But you report back immediately. Darius left the chamber. His face didn't change. But the moment he was alone in the hallway, his eyes went cold. Back at the cabin, the healer was inside treating the pup's wounds properly. Melody stood near the hearth. The scouts kept glancing at her. Like they were seeing her for the first time. It made her skin crawl. The pup hadn't taken his eye off her since the healer started working. Every time Melody moved, his gaze followed. He's bonded to you, one of the scouts said quietly. That's not. It is. Look at him. Melody did. The pup's breathing was steady. Calm. But the moment she took a step toward the door, his body tensed. A low whine escaped his throat. Don't leave. She could feel it through the bond now. Clear. Desperate. I'm not going anywhere, Melody said softly. The pup relaxed. The healer finished bandaging his leg. He needs rest. Days of it. Maybe weeks before he can shift back. Can we move him? The scarred scout asked. Not safely. The stress could kill him. But. The sound of horses cut him off. Multiple horses. Coming fast. The scouts moved to the windows. It's an escort from the stronghold, one of them said. 20 wolves. Armed. Good, the healer said. We need supplies. But Melody felt something twist in her chest. Something wrong. The pup felt it too. His body went rigid. A growl building in his throat. The cabin door opened. Darius walked in. He looked around the cabin. At the scouts. At the healer. At the pup wrapped in blankets on the floor. His expression was concerned. Perfect. Alpha King, Darius said, his voice heavy with relief. Thank the gods you're alive. The pup's growl grew louder. Darius took a step closer. We've been searching for days. When we heard you were found. The pup tried to stand. His broken leg gave out. But his eye was locked on Darius. And through the bond, Melody felt something surge. Memory. Recognition. Rage. What's wrong with him? Darius asked. The healer frowned. He's agitated. Maybe he's confused. The trauma. The pup snarled. And golden light exploded through the cabin. Not weak this time. Not flickering. Solid. Burning. Furious. Images flashed through Melody's mind. Through the bond. Claws. An ambush. Darius's face in the moonlight. Magic that tasted like poison. Darius cursing. Ordering the others to finish it. Melody's breath caught. The pup's body began to change. Bones cracking. Growing. Muscle expanding. He's shifting, the healer gasped. Darius's mask slipped. His hand moved to the blade at his belt. Stop him, he snapped at the warriors. He's not stable. He'll kill someone. But the scouts didn't move. Because they'd seen the images too. Through the pack bond. The ambush. The betrayal. Darius. You're the traitor, Garrett said. Darius's face went cold. Ridiculous. You tried to kill him. I tried to save the pack from a week. He didn't finish. Because he moved. Fast. Drawing his blade. Not toward the shifting pup. Toward Melody. If I can't have the pack, no one will. The blade flashed. Melody didn't have time to move. But the pup did. His body wasn't finished shifting. Still half-formed. Half wolf, half man. Bones exposed. Muscles raw. But he launched himself forward anyway. And the cabin filled with golden light. Nikolai Ravenstone hadn't fully shifted in 4 days. His body didn't remember how. The curse had shattered his magic. Fractured his mind. Forced him into a form so small he could barely survive, let alone fight. But Melody was in danger. And some instincts were older than curses. His bones cracked. Lengthened. Muscle tore and reformed. His small pup body expanded violently. Skin split. Blood sprayed. It should have killed him. But rage was a better fuel than magic. Darius's blade was inches from Melody's throat when Nikolai's claws caught his wrist. The sound of bone breaking echoed through the cabin. Darius screamed. Nikolai's shift wasn't complete. He was caught between forms. Half wolf, half man. Fur mixed with exposed muscle. One arm fully formed. The other still twisted. His face elongated but not finished. Golden eyes burning in a skull that was still reshaping itself. He looked like something out of a nightmare. And he was terrifying. Darius tried to pull free. You don't understand. I was trying to save. Nikolai's grip tightened. Bones splintered. Darius's blade clattered to the floor. The scouts backed away. The healer pressed herself against the wall. None of them had ever seen an alpha shift like this. Uncontrolled. Vicious. Powered by pure instinct. Nikolai dragged Darius toward the door. Not gently. Darius's feet scraped against the floor. He clawed at Nikolai's arm. Wait. Just listen to me. Nikolai threw him outside. Into the snow. Into the circle of 20 warriors who'd come with Darius as backup. They all saw it now. The traitor. The one who'd tried to kill their king. Darius scrambled backward. He's not stable. You saw him. He's more beast than alpha. We need. Nikolai stepped out of the cabin. His body was still shifting. Still breaking and reforming. But with each second, he gained more control. More form. His voice, when he spoke, wasn't human. Wasn't wolf. Something in between. Deep. Guttural. Echoing. You poisoned me. Cursed me. Left me to die in the snow. Darius's face went pale. I didn't. I remember. Nikolai took another step forward. I remember your face. Your voice. The others who helped you. The warriors surrounding them shifted uneasily. He's lying, Darius said quickly. The trauma. The curse. He's confused. Am I? Nikolai's shift completed. Not into his full war form. He wasn't strong enough for that yet. But into something leaner. Taller. His fur was silver gray. His eyes burned gold. Scars covered his body from the ambush. From the fall. From 4 days of surviving what should have killed him. He looked like a king who'd crawled out of his own grave. And he was done being merciful. Last chance, Nikolai said. Confess. Name your conspirators. Die quickly. Darius's hand moved to a hidden blade at his ankle. Nikolai saw it. Didn't stop it. Let him try. Darius lunged. Fast. Desperate. The blade never reached Nikolai. His claws tore through Darius's throat before the traitor could take another breath. Blood sprayed across white snow. Darius collapsed. Dead before he hit the ground. The circle of warriors didn't move. Didn't speak. Nikolai stood over the body. His breathing heavy. His claws dripping red. Anyone else? His voice was still that inhuman rumble. Anyone else who thinks I'm too weak to lead? Silence. Then, one by one, the warriors dropped to their knees.
Here's the thing about power. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being the one everyone's too scared to challenge. Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories, because this is where the real story starts.
Inside the cabin, Melody couldn't move. She'd watched the entire thing through the open door. Watched Nikolai shift. Watched him kill Darius without hesitation. She should be terrified. But all she felt was relief. The healer moved to the doorway. Alpha King, your wounds are fine. Nikolai turned. His voice was softer now. Closer to human. Get a message to the council. Darius is dead. His conspirators will be named and dealt with. I want a full investigation started immediately. Yes, Alpha. Nikolai looked at the scouts. Return to the stronghold. Spread the word. The king is alive. The pack bond is stable. Anyone who challenges that answers to me. Garrett, the scarred scout, bowed his head. What about you? I'll return when I'm ready. But that's an order. The scouts exchanged glances. Then nodded. They mounted their horses and left. Taking Darius's body with them. The healer hesitated. You need medical attention. I'll manage. Your leg is still broken. The curse damage will heal. Nikolai's eyes shifted to the cabin. To Melody standing in the doorway. I have everything I need. The healer followed his gaze. Understanding dawned on her face. I see. I'll leave supplies. And I'll make sure no one disturbs you unless summoned. Thank you. The healer gathered her bag. Paused. For what it's worth, Alpha King, she saved your life. In more ways than one. Nikolai didn't respond. The healer left. And for the first time in 4 days, Nikolai and Melody were alone. Nikolai stood in the snow outside the cabin. His body was still adjusting to the shift. Still aching. Still weak. But he was standing. That was more than he'd managed in days. Melody hadn't moved from the doorway. Her arms were wrapped around herself. Her eyes were wide. Are you afraid of me? Nikolai asked. His voice was almost fully human now. Deep. Rough. But recognizable. Melody shook her head slowly. No. You should be. Why? Because you killed a traitor who tried to murder both of us? Nikolai's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Most Omegas would run. I'm not most Omegas. I know. He took a step toward her. Then another. His leg was still healing. The limp was obvious. Melody moved without thinking. She stepped out into the snow and offered her arm. Nikolai stared at it. You're still hurt, Melody said quietly. Let me help. You've done enough. And you saved my life. So we're even. Now stop being stubborn and let me help you inside before you collapse. Nikolai huffed. It might have been a laugh. He took her arm. She was small. Barely came up to his chest even in his leaner alpha form. But she was strong. Steady. She helped him back into the cabin. He collapsed near the hearth. His body finally giving out. Melody closed the door. Locked it. Then sat down beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The fire crackled. The wind howled outside. Inside, it was warm. Safe. The council will expect you to return to the stronghold, Melody said eventually. I know. You're the Alpha King. You can't just. I can do whatever I want. Nikolai turned his head to look at her. I'm the king. Melody's mouth quirked. That's fair. Besides. He paused. I'm not done healing. And apparently, I heal faster when you're near. The healer told you. She didn't have to. I felt it. Nikolai's gaze was steady. Intense. Every time you touched me. Every time you hummed. Every time you stayed when you could have left. My body responded to you. Melody looked down at her hands. I'm just an Omega. A broken one. No. Nikolai's voice was firm. You were never broken. You were hidden. Suppressed. Told you were useless because someone didn't want you found. Why? Because anchoring Omegas are rare. Valuable. And if Darius knew what you were, he would have either killed you or used you. Nikolai shifted closer. You weren't Barren. You were insurance. For a king who might one day need saving. Melody's throat tightened. That's not. It is. And I'm not going to waste it. She looked up. What does that mean? Nikolai was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out slowly. Gave her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand cupped her face. Gentle. Careful. It means I'm claiming you, he said. Not as property. Not as mate if you don't want it. But as my anchor. My hearth. My equal. Melody's breath caught. You carried me when I was nothing, Nikolai continued. You kept me alive when the world had already buried me. You risked your life for someone who couldn't even thank you. His thumb brushed her cheek. I'm not letting you go back to being invisible. I'm not letting anyone treat you like you don't matter. Because you do. To me. To this pack. To the future. Something broke inside Melody. Not broke. Released. Years of being told she was useless. Years of silence. Years of being overlooked. Forgotten. And now the most feared alpha in 3 territories was telling her she mattered. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Not from fear. Not from pain. From being seen. For the first time in her life, someone saw her. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do I. Nikolai smiled. Tired. Genuine. But we'll figure it out. 3 days later, a messenger arrived at the cabin. The council was demanding Nikolai's return. Nikolai sent the messenger back with a single message. The king will rule from where he chooses. And I choose here. The council sent another messenger. Then another. Nikolai ignored them all. Instead, he focused on healing. On rebuilding his strength. On learning how to shift without the curse tearing him apart. And Melody was there for all of it. She cleaned his wounds when they reopened. Fed him when he was too weak to stand. Hummed when the pain got bad. And slowly, impossibly, he got stronger. His leg healed. His scars faded. His magic stabilized. Within a week, he could shift fully. Back into his war form. Massive. Terrifying. But he didn't. He stayed lean. Stayed close. Stayed in the cabin that had saved his life. The pack adjusted. Warriors came to the cabin for orders. The council held meetings via messenger. Territory disputes were handled through written correspondence. It was unconventional. But it worked. Because the Alpha King was alive. The pack bond was stable. And for the first time in decades, the Ravenstone pack felt secure. Not because their king was the strongest. But because he'd survived the impossible. And he'd done it with an Omega no one had valued. Until now. The snow fell gently over Frostvale Valley. Inside Melody's cabin, the fire burned warm. Steady. Nikolai sat near the hearth. Not on a throne. Not surrounded by guards. Just on the floor. His back against the wall. His eyes closed. Melody sat beside him. Close enough to touch. Far enough to give him space. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "Regret what?" "Staying here. Giving up the fortress. The luxury. All of it." Nikolai opened his eyes. Looked at her. "Never." "Why?" "Because I learned something in that storm." He reached out. Took her hand. Power isn't about having the biggest fortress or the most warriors. It's about having something worth protecting. And I found that here. With you. Melody's chest tightened. "The stronghold is cold," Nikolai continued. "It's stone and politics and people who only follow because they're afraid. But here?" He gestured to the small, humble cabin. "Here is warmth. Safety. Trust. Everything that matters. It's just a cabin." "No." Nikolai's grip on her hand tightened. "It's a hearth. My hearth. And I'm not giving it up." Melody smiled. Small. Genuine. Outside, the snow continued to fall. Inside, the Alpha King and the anchoring Omega sat side by side. Not as ruler and subject. As equals. And somewhere in the distance, the Ravenstone pack felt the bond solidify. Strengthen. Not through dominance. But through something older. Something stronger. Protection. Loyalty. Home. This is where I leave you for now. But trust me, Nikolai and Melody's story is just beginning. Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories and let me know in the comments what you thought of this chapter. And if you're wondering what happens next, well, you'll have to stay tuned. Because the real challenges are just starting.
If you made it all the way to the end, I just want to say thank you. Truly, you didn't have to stay. You didn't have to listen to Nikolai and Melody's story, but you did, and that means everything to us. Now, I'm going to be honest with you because you've given me your time and you deserve my honesty in return. I need your help. The algorithm hasn't been kind to us lately. Our videos aren't reaching as many people as they used to. And it's not just me asking, it's the entire team here at Seraphina's Romance Stories. We pour our hearts into every script, every story, every character. But without your help, these stories stay hidden. So here's my favor. If you truly enjoyed Nikolai and Melody's journey, please Comment below. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what time you're watching. Tell me if you'd carry a wounded Alpha King through a blizzard like Melody did. Like this video. Share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones. Post it on your WhatsApp status. Share it on your socials. Tell the algorithm that this story mattered to you, because that's the only way YouTube knows to push it to others who might love it just as much as you did. That's why we pause during the story to ask for subscriptions and comments, not because we're annoying, but because it's the only language the algorithm understands, and we need it to hear you. So please, help us. Help these stories reach the people who need them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And may you find your own hearth, wherever that may be, and may it keep you warm through every storm. God bless you.